This conference will now be recorded.
Alright, so as part of this ABAP HANA, first let us understand what exactly is HANA and what we are going to discuss in this ABAP HANA. Okay, so this ABAP HANA, it's basically designed for what? ABAP consultants. Okay, designed for ABAP consultants. So when I say designed for ABAP consultants, to get into this ABAP HANA, okay, it is understood that we already know ABAP. Okay, so we require knowledge of what a basic ABAP. Okay, we require knowledge of basic ABAP. Plus, we require what some object-oriented concepts also. Okay, so this is the prerequisite to get into what this particular ABAP ANA. Okay, so when I say basics of knowledge of basic ABAP means we should know how to work with internal tables. Okay, we should know how to what is the subroutine, how to pass parameters, how to do exception handling. Okay, the basic things. Okay, and coming to object oriented, we require what? We should know what is the class, method, attributes, interface, abstract class, inheritance, polymorphism. So basic object-oriented concepts is required to get into this particular ABAP HANA. So again, we are not going to discuss any ABAP conceptual things. Directly, we'll focus on what ABAP HANA. Okay, and most of the people will have what confusion between S4 HANA and what ABAP HANA. Okay, so first let us try to understand the difference between S4 HANA and what ABAP HANA. Okay, so if you take this S4 HANA, okay, this S4 HANA, it is what SAP Business Suite. Okay, SAP Business Suite for HANA. Okay, S4 HANA stands for what? SAP Business Suite for HANA. So basically, this S4 HANA is a next generation ERP. Next generation ERP. So what SAP has done is SAP initially started with what R2, okay, then they moved to what R3, okay, and then what ERP, and then they came with what a new business suite called as what S4 HANA. Okay, so if you take this R2, this is way back in 1970s. Okay, and this R3, if you take it is somewhere in 1992, and if you take this ERP NetWeaver architecture, this is around 2004, and if you take this S4 HANA, it is introduced somewhere in what 2015. Okay, so since this is the fourth business suite of SAP, they named it as what S4 HANA, SAP Business Suite for what HANA. Okay, so what exactly this S4 HANA is? Suppose if you take our normal R3 and this ERP, we have different modules: FICO module, SD module, HR module, MM module, CRM module. Like this, we have a different module. Similarly, S4 HANA also contains what different modules. So basically, I can call this. What are the features of this S4 HANA is? It's a fast in-memory database. Okay, fast in-memory database. So what is in-memory database? All those things we'll discuss going forward. Basically, S4 is what fast in-memory database. So why it is fast means it can consume and process huge amount of data. Okay, it can consume and process huge volume of sort data. So if you take out traditional databases, okay, so when I say traditional databases, like we have what Oracle, okay, we have this MySQL, SQL Server. In the traditional databases, data is stored in the form of what? Rows. Okay, data is stored in the form of what? Rows. But if you take this S4 HANA, okay, data can be stored in the form of columns as well as in the form of what? Rows. It is our wish. Okay, so basically it supports what? Data storage in the form of what? Columns. Okay, this is one of the important feature of HANA database. Why it is fast? Okay, data is stored in the form of columns plus what? Rows. So when you're storing the data in a table, where the data will be stored? In the database tables. So when you're creating the database table, we can specify whether it is a row store table or what column store table. Okay. But if you take traditional databases, it is always what? row store database. Okay, but whereas S4 HANA, it supports both row store and what column store. What exactly is the difference between column store and row store? It will take some what 2-3 days of time to understand the difference between this row store and what column store. So because of this, one of the feature, okay, HANA is what fast. HANA is fast. Okay, so if it is a column store database, it will be easier and efficient to access what high volume of what data. And apart from this, if you take this S4 HANA, the screens which we see, okay, they are all designed by using what Fury. Okay, so I can say it is beautiful. Okay, the look and feel is beautiful. User experience. Okay, beautiful user experience means they uses which screens? SAP Field screens. SAP Field screens. These Field screens, okay, they are developed. Okay, these Field screens are developed using what? UI5 framework. Okay, we have a framework called as UI5 framework. By using that particular UI5 framework, this SAP Field screens are what designed. Okay, the advantage of this SAP Field screens is they are what device compatible means we can run it on a desktop. Okay, can be run on what? Can be run on desktop. Okay, it can be run on what? Tablet. It can be run on what? Our smartphones. Okay, so based on the device we use, automatically it will adjust what? Screen size. So assume that we have one Fury application. Try to understand. We have one Fury application, okay, which is displaying some data in the form of what report. So if I run that application on the desktop, okay, that particular Fury application may show me what 10 columns. Okay, if I run the same application on what tablet, since the tablet height and width will be less than what desktop, it will show only what 5 columns. Means the application will automatically get adjusted depending on what screen size. If I run the same thing on what smartphone, since smartphone width and height are what less than this tablet or desktop, it may show only what 3 columns. I need not write a separate code for that. Automatically, depending on the device we use, the screen size will be what adjusted. Okay, hope you understood. Okay, so why S4 HANA is what fast means, why it is a beautiful user experience means all the screens, okay, whatever we see in S4 HANA, they are developed by using what? SAP Fiori. Okay, SAP Fiori skills. Again, for developing these SAP Fiori skills, we use a framework called as what? UI5 framework. Okay, and the another important feature of what this S4 HANA is, it supports around 10 LOBs. Okay, so when I say LOBs here, lines of businesses. Okay, lines of what business. So this S4 HANA, okay, it is into what we call it as S4 what S4 HANA HR, that is human resources. Okay, S4 HANA, what is that? Supply chain, that is the SCM. Okay, then we have what S4 S4 HANA what manufacturing. Okay, we have what S4 HANA sales. Okay, we have S4 HANA, what is it, sourcing and procurement, like this. Okay, sourcing and don't take anything, everything I'll share it later on. Okay, S4 HANA sourcing and procurement. Then what else? S4 R&D, research and what development. Okay, then we have what S4 HANA into what asset management. Okay, asset management. Okay, and then it is into what for CRM related we have S4 HANA service. Okay, S4 HANA service. Then we have what else? Marketing, S4 HANA marketing and what commerce, like this. This S4 HANA will provide solutions across what 10 different LOBs, 10 different LOBs, lines of what business. So you take any industry, S4 HANA will provide what the solution. Okay, and another advantage of this S4 HANA is what it can be run on what cloud. It can be run on what cloud and on what on premise. Means we can install it locally. as well as we can set up that on what cloud also, internet based application. Okay, and it is more simple. Okay, it is more, means I can say more simplicity will be there in case of what S4HANA. So when I say simplicity here, the meaning of this is, suppose just this rate of functional. Suppose in case of a normal ERP, I want to perform a business process related to inventory. Okay, inventory management. Okay, so in order to perform this inventory management transaction, okay, I need to use around 26 different tables. 26 different tables. Okay, but in S4 HANA, what they have done, same business process, they simplified, and by using only one table. What is that table? If I say 26 different tables, we have different tables like MSTQ, okay, MST. These are all aggregate tables, okay? MSTV, and we have some what history related tables, MSTQH, okay, and what else? MSTH. Like this, it will be we have to use around 26 different tables to perform that particular inventory management. In S4HANA, what they have done is to perform the same business process, they give only one table. Okay, they give only one table called as what MAT doc. We call it as what material documents. Material document. So by using only this one simple table, we can perform the same activity. Means if you come to S4 HANA, the number of tables are what reduced. Okay, or in another understanding, suppose in a normal ECC, you want to create a sales order. Okay, excuse me. If you want to create the sales order, we will be using some T code like what VA01. Okay, so to create a simple sales order, I may be required to navigate around 5 to 6 screens. 5 to 6 screens. I need to capture data in what many fields. Okay, across each screen, I need to capture the data in many fields. Now, if you take this is normal ECC. You assume. Okay, if I take this S4 HANA sales, okay, we have a module called what S4 HANA sales. Here I want to what run a sales. I want to create a sales order. Okay, so I can just navigate between one or two views. Here I'm calling it as what views, because views in the sense this S4 HANA screens, they are developed by using what SAP Fiori. Okay, nothing but what by using UI5 framework, they have developed this particular SAP Fiori screens. Okay, those who know WebDeam Pro, you can understand these views. Views is like a screen on. Okay, so between by navigating across one or two views and capturing data in what limited number of fields, I can create what sales order. So everything they are what simplified. Okay, so what you have to understand so far is what we are trying to discuss before getting into this ABAP HANA. We are trying to understand what is this S4 HANA. S4 HANA is what? It's a new business suite introduced by what? SAP. Okay. As part of this business suite, we have again different modules. So as I gave the example here, it supports around 10 LOBs, lines of business. These are different areas: human resources, supply chain, manufacturing, sales, okay, finance, simple finance, like this, service, marketing, and commerce. Like this, it supports around what 10 LOBs. Okay, and S4 HANA will provide what beautiful user experience. How it will provide beautiful user experience. What are the screens we see in this S4 HANA modules? They are developed by using what? UI5, nothing but what Fiori screens. They are nothing but called what Fiori screens. To develop that Fiori screens, the framework which we use is what? UI5 framework, and it is what? Device compatible. This S4 HANA applications, we can run it in what? Any kind of device, desktop or tablet or what smartphone. Okay, so if I run it on a desktop, it will automatically adjust based on its screen size. If I run the same application on the tablet, it will automatically adjust to the screen what I10 width. Okay, this is what the example I give. In the report, I assume that in desktop I may be able to see what 10 columns. Tablet, I am able to see 5 columns. Means we will not write any code saying that if you run it in desktop, show me 10 columns. If I run it on a tablet, show me 5 columns. It is responsive. Responsive means depending on what the device we use, the application automatically gets what adjusted, and it provides. It is more simple. More simple means to perform any business process. Normal traditional ECC, what you have to do, you have to what it a different number of tables. I have to navigate across many screens. But in case of this S4HANA modules, what they have done, they have reduced the number of tables also. They have reduced the number of tables. They have reduced the number of screens. Instead of saying screens, I call it as what? Views. Okay, so S4HANA, it's a new business suite which again contains different modules, just like we have FICO. Here we have what S4HANA Simple Finance. We have SAP SD. Here we have what S4 Sales. Understood, sir? They have simplified the modules with less number of tables and less number of what views. Now we are talking about what ABAP HANA. Again, ABAP HANA is not a separate module. Okay, what are the technical things we do in S4 HANA? We call it as what ABAP HANA. So as an ABAP consultant, we are involved in what technical development of what objects. Whatever an ABAP consultant does, so we are called as what ABAP HANA consultant. Okay, I'm an ABAP consultant working on what HANA database. So I should know what is my roles and what responsibilities. Okay, so that is what we are going to discuss now. ABAP HANA. ABAP HANA is not a separate module. It is part of what S4 HANA. What are the technical activities that we do in this S4 HANA modules? When I say S4 HANA modules, it can finance, sales, whatever it is. Okay, that roles and responsibility we call it as what ABAP HANA. Okay, so far we understood the difference between what S4 HANA and what ABAP HANA. S4 HANA is a new business suite, and what are the technical activities that we do in that S4 HANA modules as an ABAPer, we are called as what ABAP HANA consultant. Okay, so any questions so far, please ask me. Uh, if you want to ask the questions, you can unmute and ask, or you can use the chat box also. Below you have the chat box. You can use the chat box, or you can unmute and speak. Okay, right. So there are no questions. Fine. Now let us understand what is the role of what ABAP HANA consultant. Okay. So far we are all working as what ABAP consultant. Okay. So what is the general way of doing the development? So assume that. Try to understand this. This is important. So this is traditional ABAP development. Traditional ABAP development. What we are doing so far, and this is what ABAP HANA development. Okay, so if you take this particular traditional what ABAP development, okay, we call this particular approach as what data to data to what code approach. Data to code approach. We call it as data to code approach. If you take this ABAP HANA development, okay, we need to focus on what code to data approach. Code to data approach. So quickly let us understand what is the difference between these two. Okay. So first let us focus on our traditional ABAP development. Okay. So just see it. Yeah, 1 second. So just observe this. This is data to what code approach. So assume that this is your application server. Okay. And assume that this is your what non-HANA database. When I say non-HANA database, it can be Oracle database, it can be MySQL database, it can be any database other than what HANA database. So this is your what application server ABAP, and this is yeah, no problem, no problem. Those are what attending from outside India. If you're having office, you can disconnect. We'll be sharing the recordings. Okay, you can refer to the recordings later on. Okay, so daily around 6 a.m. we will be sending the meeting ID. Okay, yeah, fine. So application server ABAP, and then this is your what non-HANA database, non-HANA database. Okay, so in our traditional ABAP, what is the approach that we are going to follow is see here. Yeah, let's observe this. This is the approach we follow. So assume that this is what approach? Data to what? Code approach. Data to code approach. Data to code approach. Okay. So what we are going to do in our traditional ABAP here, see the activities here. First, what you will do from your application server, will send the request to what? Database. Okay, this is your first activity. How do you say? How do you get the data from the database? By writing some select query. By sending some select query, we are going to fetch the data from what? Database. So this is your thing. And here assume that we are going to perform what? Calculations. Just try to understand this. Let me draw it first. Yeah. So what are the activities that we do in our data to code approach? First step is we are going to what? Excuse me 1 second, please. Yeah. The first step what you will do is we will send the request. Okay. Send the request to database for what? Retrieving what? Data. Okay. Try to understand. We'll send the request to database for retrieving the data. How do you send the request? By executing some select statement. So from the application server, we are going to send the request to the database. Now, what happens here? Here we are going to return the data from the database server to what? Your application server. So return, okay. Whenever we execute the select statement, what you are going to do? We are going to return the records to what? Application server. Return the records to application server. Okay. So assume that I am returning some what? Some 50,000 records. I am returning from 50,000 records. Return records to application server. Say around what? Say around 50,000 records we are requesting from the database, and these records, okay, these records will get stored in what? And they get stored in what? Our internal table. Na? In our application server, we will be creating what? An internal table. Whenever we start the execution of the program, the internal table gets created. Whatever the data we are fetching from the database, that data will come and sit in what? Internal table. Done. Assume that the data is stored. Once the data is stored in the what? Internal table, what you will do? You will do the calculations on that. You will do some processing on what? Internal table data. Okay, so when I say processing on internal table data, try to understand. When you are saying processing or internal data, I may delete some unnecessary data, or I may modify some data, or I may insert new data, or I may sort some data, or I'll be doing some calculations on the data. So when you are doing the processing on the internal data, which server will be used? Application server will be used. Application server will be used. Done. So once the data is processed, what we are going to do? We are going to display the what? Processed data. So what is the thing which is happening in the current system? All the calculations we are doing at what level? Application server level. We are doing at the application server level. But in case of coming to HANA database, we need to what? Leverage. We need to use the benefits of what? HANA database. So why customers has to go for HANA database is what? It has got some important features. In order to make use of those features, what I have to do is the entire code we need to execute. We need to execute in what? HANA database level. In the current system, what is happening in the current system? We are fetching the required data from what? Database server to the application server. So we have to return some records. Try to understand. We have to return some records from the database server to what? Application server. So what happens? The network layer will be used. Because why network layer is used? Because we have to return the data from database to what? Application service. SAP should make use of the network layer, which will increase what? Network traffic. And once the data is stored in the internal table, you are doing the processing. So what happens when you're doing the processing? Again, the load will be increased on application server. And when you're fetching the 50,000 records from the database, what will happen? It will increase the load on database also. Understood? Because we are sending the request to database to fetch that 50,000 records. So in the current system, what I can say is all these layers are used. Database layer will be used, application layer will be used, as well as what network layer will be used. Okay, database layer, it has to return all the 50,000 records, and that 50,000 record should travel from database to what application server. That will increase the load on what network layer. Once the data is stored in the application layer, that is, I mean, this application server, we are going to do the calculations on the internal table. Again, for that, we use what application server. So all the three layers we are involved in what current system. When you come to ANA context, okay, it will be reverse approach. Reverse approach means what? We are going to follow what code to data approach. One second, I'm having the diagram. Let me open that. One second, just hold on, please. Hold on, I'm just opening the other folder. Let me check where it is available. Yes, you can see it. You can observe this. Yeah, I think this will be more better. So the current system is not nothing but traditional approach. Okay, same thing. What you are doing in the first steps here, we are sending the request to database for retrieving the data. Then what will happen? The records are returned to what applications? I assume that I am returning some 50,000 records. So what are the records we have written from the database? They get stored in what internal table. So to fetch the 50,000 records from the database, what happens? It will increase the load on what database server, and to return the data from database server to application server, it increases the load on what network layer. And after fetching the data into the internal table, we are going to process that particular internal table data. When I say process the internal table data means what? You may insert new data, you may modify the data, you may sort the data, all kind of calculations. I'll do it on what internal table data. So at that time, it increases the load on what application server. Okay, this is a traditional approach. So in the new system, what is the new system here? Assume that our database is what? HANA database. Acha, one more important point I think I missed. Here, S4 HANA is a new business suite now. Okay, so we have different modules in this S4 HANA. What are they? SAP, S4 HANA Finance, S4 HANA Sales. All these modules will make use of what database? HANA database. So all these S4 modules, SAP suite for HANA modules will work on what? HANA database only. Okay, so here if you see this approach, yeah, this is nothing but what code to data approach. So see the arrow pointer here. See the calculations here. Calculations are done at what level? HANA database level. But whereas the current system, the calculations are done in what? Our application server. So observe here. We need to write the ABAP code in such a way that, try to understand this, the ABAP consultant should write the ABAP code in such a way that that code gets executed in what? HANA database. Means we need to push our code. We need to push our ABAP code to what? HANA database. Make clear. In the earlier what case, what will happen? What is the code we write? That code gets executed in what? Application server. But now we are going to write the ABAP code in such a way that the code is pushed to what? HANA database. Code to data approach. Code to data approach means we need to push our ABAP code to what? HANA database so that it gets executed at what? HANA database level. When it gets executed at the HANA database level, when it gets executed at the HANA database level, we can make use of what? HANA database features. Okay, so that will improve the performance. So executing the code, ABAP code in HANA database will perform all kinds of calculations, whether it is simple calculation or what? Complex calculation. everything will execute in what? HANA database. And what happens here? It returns a processed data to what? Application server. In the earlier scenario, what is happening? All the records are returned to what? Application server. Once the data is stored in the application server, then we are doing the processing. But whereas here, processing is done at what? HANA database level. Only the required data is returned to what? Application server. Only the required data that you want to show it to the user will be returned to what? Application server. Okay. So when the processing is done at what? HANA database, it will make use of what? HANA database features. What are the important features of HANA database? HANA is what? HANA supports what? In-memory database. So what is that in-memory? You understand when you go to architecture, and it supports what? Both column and what? Row storage. Again, there is a what? Thinking that HANA supports only column storage database. No, it supports both column as well as what? Row storage. If you take our current database, I mean to say non-HANA databases, they support only what? They support only what? Row store what? Features. But whereas here HANA database supports both column as well as what? Row storage. Okay. And it has got something called as compressions, which is responsible for what? Removing the redundant data, and it supports something called as MPP, multi-core parallel processing. Because of these four features, HANA database is faster. Okay, because of these four features, we are going to push our code to what? HANA database, so that everything gets executed in what? HANA database itself. Only the required data, I mean to say the processed data, will be returned to your application server, from where we are going to show that data to the end user in the form of what? Report. So all the calculations we'll do it in what? HANA database. This is the code changes we are going to write in what? When we are using what? HANA database. Am I clear? So how do we push the ABAP code to HANA database? We have different features. We have to use some advanced open SQL statements. We have to use something called as CDS views. We have to use something called as ADBC, AMDP, IDA, ALV, IDA. By using all these features, we can push our ABAP code to what? HANA database, so that they get executed at the database level itself, and it will make use of the HANA features, which will improve the performance of your application. So what is the main agenda for going to HANA database? To improve the performance of your applications. How it will improve the performance means HANA database will make use of these features. So we'll understand these features in detail in the coming sessions. Okay. So any questions related to this data to code and code to data, please ask. Any questions? Yeah, Shivshankar?
No, sir. I'm okay.
Yeah. Anyone? Sriram, Sudhanshu, Srilakshmi, Devajyoti. Siddharth, you logged in, right? Okay, Siddharth. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, fine, fine. Right. Kishore, any questions? Kishore, Karthik, Dinesh, Akshay.
Okay.
Okay. Right, right.
Sir, hello.
Yeah,
Uh,
tell me.
Sir, just in-memory database, just have one query.
Yeah, in-memory database means, again, to understand this, we should know the HANA architecture. We are going to discuss that feature, okay? Probably in another 1 or 2 days, we'll be discussing it. For the time being, just try to understand like this. Where the data will be stored permanently in the disk, in the hard disk, okay? But in case of HANA database, the data gets stored in RAM only. So instead of fetching the data every time from the disk, it will directly read the data from RAM itself. It will directly read the data from RAM itself. Okay, that is nothing but called as in-memory database. So when it is reading the data from database, it will improve the performance. Okay, generally what happens, generally if the data is stored in the disk, We have to get the data from disk to what internal concept. We have to get the data from disk to what RAM, and from RAM we have to read it. But in case of HANA database, what happens is the copy of the data is stored in RAM itself. Okay, so when you are requesting for the data, it will fetch the data directly from what RAM itself. So reading the data from the RAM is very much faster compared with the reading the data from what the disk. If you read it from the disk, again the data should be loaded to RAM. Again from the RAM we have to read it. But whereas in case of HANA database, the copy of the data is maintained in RAM itself. So we are going to fetch the data from what RAM. That's nothing but called as in-memory database. Yeah, I'll come to that point, Srilakshmi. I'll come to the points.
Hello, sir.
So
So,
yeah.
in the middle of discussion, I lost the connectivity of audio. So, can you
Mhm.
please explain the data to code part, the second part?
Code to data. This one, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Code, yeah. So, see, now we are all what ABAP consultants, okay? Now, if you are working with ABAP consultant, now what you have to do is your customer is running his business from last 20 years. Try to understand. Your customer is running his business for last 20 years. In that 20 years, he has used what non-HANA database. That is Oracle database, SQL Server, MySQL, other than what non-HANA, other than HANA database. Now, after 20 years, we are asking, SAP is asking every customer to migrate their business to what? HANA. To migrate their business to HANA means whatever the data is available in the non-HANA databases will be get loaded to what HANA database. Okay, so entire assume that the entire data is replicated in what HANA database. So how it is replicated is we are not bothered about it. Okay, now the entire data is stored in what HANA database. So what is the agenda now? What is the job of an ABAP consultant? We need to improve the performance of the reports. Okay, how do we improve the performance of the reports? We need to write the ABAP code in such a way that the code gets executed in what? HANA database. You know, traditional ABAP, whatever the code we write is what? We'll write the select statement, which will pull the data from database, and that data will come and sit in the internal table. Once the data is there in the internal table, you'll do all the operations, crude operations. You'll create, update, delete, you'll sort, whatever it is, you'll do it in the internal table, and then we are going to display it to the user. But whereas here, our code gets executed in what? HANA database. When it gets executed in the HANA database, it will make use of the HANA features. What is that HANA features? The main two important features are what? In-memory database and what? It supports both column and what? Row storage. Okay, so it will make use of those features. It will improve the performance of your application. So what is the job of our consultant is how do you push the code to what HANA database? How do you push the ABAP code to HANA database? Means we have to make use of some features. We have to use some advanced open SQL statements. We have to make use of AMDPs. We have to make use of CDS views. We have ALV reporting in our ABAP. The way we develop the ALV reporting in our normal traditional ABAP and in this HANA database is different. Okay, so by making those features, we are going to push our code to what HANA database. Yes, Kishore, we can do any kind of operations. All the DML operations, I can directly do it at what HANA database level itself. We can do. That's what I'm saying. When I'm saying processing, processing can be anything. It can be deleting the data, updating the data, inserting new data, all the activities, you'll do it at what? HANA database level itself. Once the entire data is processed in HANA database, the required data we are going to return it to application server just for display purpose. Just for display purpose. So the application layer here, we use this application layer only for displaying purpose, not for doing any calculations. All the required operations we'll do it at what? HANA database itself. And Srilakshmi, do we require knowledge of SQL? Means not required. Anyhow, next slide I'll open, you'll understand. You don't require any knowledge of SQL. If you know that, understanding will be easy. but it's not mandated. Anyhow, we are going to start from very scratch. Yeah, Sudhanshu, is it clear code to data approach? Okay, right now. So just here, this is important. Okay, so I'm projecting my experience as what ABAP HANA consultant. Okay, I know ABAP HANA means you are expected to know what ABAP plus the technical development related to what HANA database. Okay, so try to understand. Try to understand. Now we are ABAP HANA consultants. So what kind of development activities that we are going to do is, see here. This is your HANA database. Try to understand. Initially, we'll be working as a native HANA developer. Native HANA developer. So when I say native HANA developer, okay, in the database, what you will have? You will have different database objects. You will have something called as what? Tables. You will have views. You will have sequences. You will have synonyms. Okay. You will have triggers. You will have cursors. You will have procedures. You will have functions. All those things together, we call it as what? Native HANA development. So initially, there are two roles here. One is you will be working as a native HANA developer, or you'll be working as what? ABAP and HANA developer. Both are related to ABAP only. So if you're working as a native HANA developer, what is your role? We have to use something called as HANA Studio. HANA Studio. Okay, we'll be seeing that in a couple of days. By using this HANA Studio, we will design the database. Okay, so how do we design the database means the database will contain different database objects. Okay, just like if you take our ABAP context, we have dictionary objects now, we have tables, we have views, we have subshells, we have data elements, we have domains, all those things together we call it as a dictionary object. Similarly, as a native HANA developer, we are going to design the HANA database. So when I say designing the HANA database means we are responsible for creating and managing what? Database objects by using SQL script programming. Okay, we are going to design the database objects. From where we are going to design? Not from SAP GUI. We are going to use a tool called as what? HANA Studio. Okay, by making use of this HANA Studio tool, the HANA database has to be designed. Designed in the sense what? In every business, okay, we require what? Tables, we require procedures, we require functions, we require triggers. All those things we are going to design. So once a database is designed, what is the next role here? ABAP and HANA development. So what is the main agenda here? Agenda is what? To improve the performance of your report. So just see this. Again, by using HANA Studio, try to understand. By using HANA Studio, we are going to develop the reports, or we are going to enhance what? Existing reports by using what? Advanced Open SQL statement. Advanced Open SQL statement. Again, it will make use of the application server. It will interact with the HANA database. So what else we can do with this HANA Studio? By using this HANA Studio, okay, we'll be developing something called as CDS views. We'll be developing something called as AMDP, ABAP Managed Database Procedures, or the CDS views, Core Data Services. If you take this SAP GUI, okay, by using this SAP GUI also, we can develop only limited development, like what? We can develop the reports and we can enhance what? Existing reports, okay. There are some developments, there are some developments which can be done only through HANA Studio. What are those developments? If you want to design your HANA database, we need to what? Create and manage the HANA database objects. So that can be done only through what? HANA Studio. From HANA Studio, as you can see the diagram. From HANA Studio, we will be connecting to what? HANA database. Okay. And here there are some developments which can be done only through what? HANA Studio. What are those developments? Developing what? CDS views and developing AMDP. I cannot do it through what? SAP GUI. So if you are using HANA database, do we use SAP GUI? Yes, we can still use SAP GUI, but we can do the development of only what? Reports. Okay. For developing this CDS views AMDPs, compulsorily we require what? HANA Studio. Okay, so in the interview point of view, what is your role as an ABAP HANA consultant means what you have to say as an ABAP HANA consultant. Okay, we have designed the HANA database. So when you are saying that you have designed the HANA database means related to HANA database, you will have different database objects. We have something called as schemas. Schemas you may not do it, it is done by administrator, but you will be responsible for creating the tables, okay, imposing the constraints on the tables, defining the cursors, defining the triggers, okay, defining the procedures, defining the functions, defining the synonyms, all those together we call it as what? Database objects, and that is done by using what? SQL script programming. So this SQL script programming we are going to discuss from very basic level. So to do the SQL script, it is not compulsory that we should know SQL. Whether you know or doesn't know, we will be starting from very basic level. So for doing this native HANA development, compulsory we require what? HANA Studio. For developing the reports, yes, it is developer choice. Whether you connect to that HANA database through SAP GUI or through what? HANA Studio. So just to give a glimpse of that, let me check whether I can connect to the server. Just to give a glimpse of that. Let me check 1 second, please. Hmm. Yeah. So what I told here, as an ABAP consultant, we need to do some developments only through HANA Studio, only through HANA Studio. So if you see here, I'm having something called as HANA Studio. Basically, HANA Studio is an Eclipse tool. Those who know UI5, those who know you might have used Eclipse. So HANA Studio is also what? Eclipse only. But in that Eclipse tool, we need to install some, we need to what? Set up some HANA related plugins. So they renamed it as what? HANA Studio. Okay. In the HANA Studio is basically an Eclipse tool only, but installed with what? HANA plugins. And we can rename it as what? HANA Studio. So let me just try to open this HANA Studio. Don't worry about this. We'll discuss that later on. I'm just trying to open what? HANA Studio. Okay. Yeah. So just observe here. Uh, Assume that traditional ABAP. If you want to create a table, okay. If you want to create a table, how do we do it? In every project we'll be creating some custom tables now. So how do we develop the custom tables? You'll run the T code what SC11, that is ABAP dictionary, and we'll start creating the table. So while creating the table, we'll capture different things like delivery class, data, that is technical settings, data class, size category. We'll give at least one primary key field. Then you'll provide enhancement category. All right, all those minimum settings you have to provide, and you have to create the table. Okay, we will never connect to what? We will never connect to database directly. So far, what are the development we are doing as an ABAP consultant? All the developments, what you will do from SAP GUI, you will connect to what? Application server, and this application server will interact with what? Database. Interact with database. But now what I am doing from my HANA Studio, I should directly connect to what? HANA database. Okay, that's what I am trying to show here. So this is my HANA Studio. I need to connect to HANA database physically. So let me check whether I am having the credential. So this is my instance. I'll just try to connect to my HANA database. Okay, good. I'm able to connect to what? HANA database. So this is my HANA Studio. From this HANA Studio, I'm able to connect to HANA database directly. Okay. Now, just let me show you something here. 1 second here. I think. Okay. So this is my previous batch. Okay. In my previous batch, I created something called a schema. Again, just ignore what is schema. So what I said here, as an HANA native HANA developer, we are going to design, we are going to create and manage what? Database objects. So there is something called a schema here. If I expand this, you can see here, We have something called as column views, we have functions, we have indexes, we have procedures, we have sequences, synonyms, tables, triggers, okay, database views, all this together, we call it as what? Database objects. So initially, when you are going for HANA database, first of all, the HANA database should be ready. Means we need to design the HANA database. We need to design the HANA database means what are the custom tables we require, we need to create. Okay. So I might have some tables here. Let me check. Okay. I'm having one table. Just try to understand. Don't worry about this, how to create. I'm just trying to open a table. So this is some my table is there. This is a table I created. Okay, this is a table I created. Yeah, you can see here, observe this. There is something called as a column store here. What is the main feature of HANA database? It supports both column store as well as what? Row store. Okay. If the data is stored in column storage format, the accessing will be faster. Okay. So how it is faster, I'll discuss in a couple of sessions. Okay. We have both a column store as well as what? Row store. So here this table is created as what? Column store. Like this, we are going to create something called as triggers. Now, just to understand these triggers, everyone are from ABAP background only. If you take our normal ABAP, we'll be creating some custom tables and we'll define some table level events. No? We have something called table maintenance. As part of the table maintenance, we can what? Define and implement some events. Here also, similar to that, we have something called as the triggers. Triggers. So we are going to design triggers, procedures. Just like your subroutines, here we have what procedures, we have sequences, indexes, function, all this together we call it as what? Database objects. So this is one role. This is one role. Once HANA database is ready, okay, what that HANA database contains? It contains different database objects, tables, sequence, triggers, procedures, function. I have to make use of those things in my reports. Okay, so in my reports or in my CDS views or in my AMDPs. So what you will do? I can connect to this HANA database either through SAP GUI or through what? HANA Studio. So by using this HANA Studio only, I can develop something called as what? CDS views. I can develop something called as AMDPs. Okay, this is one way. Okay, if you want to develop the report, I can develop it through HANA Studio or I can directly connect it to what? SAP GUI. See now, I'm trying to connect to my HANA database through SAP. I cannot directly connect through application server only. So just try to understand. I'm just trying to log on to my S4 HANA system. I'm trying to log on to my S4 HANA system through the SAP GUI. What is the password? Okay, what is this? Welcome to IDS S4 HANA. Done. Okay, so if I choose system status, what is the database system? HDB. HDB, HANA database. Okay, done. So from if you want to do the development from here, you have to go to what? SC38. We will be developing some programs. Okay, same way. Okay, we'll be getting the data from HANA database. We'll store it in the internet. We'll do all kinds of what? Processing. So as an ABAP HANA consultant, most of the people will have a feeling that SAP GUI is or ABAP is outdated. Nothing like that. ABAP will be there for next 100 years also. Understood? ABAP will be there, but apart from a traditional ABAP development, if you are projecting yourself as ABAP HANA consultant, what are the other developments we are going to do? We are going to create and manage HANA database objects. We are going to develop CDS views, AMDPs. Okay, we are going to develop some HANA modeling views. All these developments can be done only through what? HANA Studio. Okay, we'll be still using SAP GUI. If your job is only to develop the reports or to enhance the reports, I need not go for HANA Studio. I can connect, I can do it through what? SAP GUI also. So this is my S4 HANA system. Try to understand. Now what I will do is, okay, I want to create a customer. So in a normal ECC, how do you create a customer? XD01, XD01, okay? Or how do you create a vendor XK01? So just try to understand. This is my S4 HANA system. Okay, this is my S4 HANA system. If I run this xk01, when I press enter, good, you can see on the status bar what is saying here, redirecting to the transaction what business partner. The transaction xk01 is what absolute. The transaction xk01 is absolute. Understood? You know, normal ECCs, to create a vendor we use xk01, to create a customer we use xd01. Okay, right, just observe here. See once again, if I run xk01, it is saying that redirected to the transaction BP, that is business partner. I'll run xd01 and I press enter. Here also what is saying, same thing. Na? What is that? Redirecting to what? Transaction business partner. Transaction xd01 is what? Absolute, means in this S4 HANA system, in the S4 HANA system, we are not going to what? Use this traditional T codes. You will have a different T codes. Okay. So if I am working as what S4 HANA what finance consultant, so I should know what are the T codes related to finance module. If I'm working as a S4 HANA sales consultant, okay, I should know what are the modules in that particular sales module. Okay, right? Now, if you again go to system status, just try to understand. Yeah, database system is HTTP. Let me go to this components. I'll click on this. I want to show you something here. But you can see here. S4 HANA will come in two flavors, on cloud or on premise. On cloud means internet based application. Internet based application. They're nothing but free screens. Now this is installed on what? Our local desktop. So this is S4 HANA on premise. On premise. If you want internet based applications, we need to install the SAP HANA on what? Cloud. At that time, we'll have free applications. Okay. So we need not worry about whether it is S4 HANA cloud or S4 HANA premise. The development activity will be same for what? ABAP HANA consultant. Whether it is S4 HANA cloud or S4 HANA on premise, the development activity for ABAP HANA consultant will be only these things. Am I clear? So this is the SAP HANA technical development role. One more thing I can show it here. Just a minute. You can ask me the question later on. Let me just show you on. Yeah, you can see this. Yeah. Again, you'll have two types of implementations here. Okay, one is greenfield implementation, another is what? Sidecar implementation. Try to understand. Greenfield implementation means first time customer is getting into what? SAP software. So when he goes for SAP software, what he can do? Directly, suppose this is SAP ECC. Okay, SAP ECC. You need not go for S4 HANA. Even this ECC also I can what? Install what? HANA database or BW with what? HANA. If it is a fresh implementation, we call it as what? Greenfield implementation. Okay, where SAP HANA is what? Primary database. Now, this is most important for you. This is also important. If it is a fresh implementation, yes, the customer will directly go for HANA database. Now, assume that your customer is using this SAP software from last 30 years. So, in that last 30 years, okay, he is using this ECC system on what? Oracle database, which is non-HANA database. Now, what we will do? We will convince the customer or we will force the customer, okay, will force the customer to migrate his database to what? HANA database. Maybe after a couple of years, probably by 2020 middle or end, what SAP is told is they are not going to support, non-HANA databases. Okay, they give a deadline kind of thing for every customer. Every customer should migrate their business from what? Current database to what? HANA database. So here we call it as what? Sidecar implementation. Means in these 20 years, there are some 100 reports that are already developed, but these 100 reports, okay, are making use of what? Non-HANA database. Now what we are going to do? We are forcing the customer to purchase what? HANA database. So he will go to what? HANA database. He may not shift to S4 HANA. Still he wants to run SAP ECC only, no problem. But database should be what? HANA database. So what happens here? Data will be migrated from what? This Oracle database to what? HANA database using some tools. SAP landscape transformation tools is SLT, we call it as SAP landscape transformation tools. It is generally done by BW consultant. So assume that data is migrated from Oracle to HANA database. So what is my job now as an ABAP consultant? I need to improve the performance of the reports. Now. How do you improve the performance of the reports? We have to write the code in such a way that the code should get executed in what? HANA database. So what you will do is here. Main role of ABAP HANA consultant to achieve what? Code push down approach using what? Following four things. What are they? By using advanced open SQL statements, by creating the CDS views, and by using the SQL programming and by using this AMDP, we are going to push our code to what? HANA database. So assume like this. Try to understand. See here, we're having some XYZ report which is running on what non-HANA database. Try to understand. Customer is running using this report from last 20 years. Okay, this report to show me the result, it is taking some what 5 minutes of time. For example, I'm saying 5 minutes of time. Now what you will do? You will convince the customer that if you move to HANA database, I can improve the performance of the report. How do you improve the performance? By making use of this what HANA concepts, CDS views, AMDPs, ALV, IDA, ADBC, Advanced Open SQL statement. We'll push our ABAP code toward HANA database so that we can make use of that HANA database features which will improve the performance. So what you will do now? We'll change the logic of the report in such a way that it makes use of what HANA database. So when I what make use of HANA database, it is giving me the result within what 2 minutes. So we'll compare. We'll tell the customer that earlier report was taking 5 minutes. Now since we have done that on HANA database, it is taking what 2 minutes of time. This is nothing but called as what sidecar implementation. Means customer will continue running his business on what non-HANA database. Okay, but you will take only one report at a time. You will take only one report at a time, and by using the code to postdown approach, code to data approach, will improve the performance of the report. And after developing that report, we'll tell the customer that, see, if I execute this report on the HANA database, it is taking less amount of time to give me the result. Like that, we need to migrate each report to what HANA database. Is it clear? This implementation is called as what? Sidecar implementation or accelerator. If it is a fresh implementation, we call it a greenfield implementation. So as an ABAP consultant, you might be working either in greenfield implementation or you may be working in what? Sidecar implementation. Means already there are many thousands of customers who are running their business on non-HANA database. Okay. So it is not possible for every customer to close their business and get into HANA. We'll do it part by part. Means as a separate thing, you will what purchase HANA database. We'll take one report at a time. We'll make use of the HANA features and we'll improve the performance of the report. Slowly, we'll migrate all the reports to what HANA database. Is it clear? Any questions? Please ask me. So in both the cases, whether it is greenfield or what sidecar implementation, you will be using what this HANA Studio for designing the HANA database as well as for developing the CDS views or AMDPs or whatever it is. So any questions, please ask.
So the other impact, other than reports and everything, like what we do enhancements for normal customized screen,
That will
sorry,
remain same.
standards,
That will
same
remain same.
will remain same.
Yes,
So
scripts.
that will definitely go with SAP ECC GUI.
Yes, obviously. I'm talking about only reports. In case of
Okay.
reports, we have to go for what HANA Studio. There are some developments like CDS and for that we require HANA Studio. That's smart form script everything. Yes, for that
Yes,
we require what
GUI.
SAP GUI only.
Okay. And cloud deployment
Hmm.
is possible for reports.
Cloud deployment in the sense you want to run it on the cloud.
Yeah. Hmm. We
Yeah,
have
if
reports developed on HANA Studio. Basically,
okay,
we have a concept of deployment. All the objects which are
correct.
developed in HANA Studio will be published
Deploy on
in
the
cloud.
cloud. Correct. Yes, possible. We'll see that as part of the course. Possible.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Any other questions, others? So to summarize everything, what we discussed today is what is the role of what? ABAP HANA consultant. If you're projecting yourself as what? ABAP HANA consultant, what kind of what development we'll be doing? We'll be using two types of developments. Native HANA developer, native HANA developer. Another is what? We call it as what? ABAP and HANA development. Okay, for both things, we require what? ABAP consultant only. Okay, native HANA development means from HANA Studio, we will be directly connecting to HANA database and we will design all the database objects. Once HANA database is ready, we have to start consuming those database objects in the reports, in the CDS views, AMDPs, ALV reports, ADBC. For that again, we use what HANA Studio and we'll do other kind of what development. If it is only report, we can do it using GUI also. But CDS views, AMDPs, you must use what HANA Studio. So as an ABAP HANA consultant, you will be using both SAP GUI as well as what HANA Studio. It's our wish.
And Sridhar, one more question.
Tell me.
In traditional, we are moving from version to version. At that time, like we use SPDD, SPAU for database adjustment, something like that, right?
That will
So in
remain the
this,
same.
but in HANA database, if we use HANA database, if there is a
Mhm.
version change, the process will be same. For
Yes,
example,
here also. Yeah, yeah, understood, understood. You are doing some changes to your object. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So how do you track that changes? So in a normal thing, we have a transport organizer. By using the
yeah.
transport management, we can do the version management all this. Here also, we have that
Mm.
concept of version management. We'll be discussing that. There's nothing but what transporting HANA objects. How do you transport the HANA objects? How do you retrieve the older version? How do we compare the versions? Version
Okay.
management. Everything is what different.
No, no,
We'll
no.
be
I'm
discussing.
not talking about version management.
Okay.
We do some adjustments to the database objects by using SPDD and SPAU T codes, right? If we
Okay.
move
Okay.
from one
Hmm.
version to another version, the
Correct.
same way
Hmm.
like HANA is moving lot of versions, right? 16.10 and then moving to some other version. Might
Hmm.
some changes
Support
will be
packs.
there in
Hmm.
support
Hmm.
patch. Huh.
Hmm.
So at that time also we are going to use the same T codes for adjustments between HANA
Yes.
database.
Yes. 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 Same.
Okay.
Same. Same. Nothing
Okay.
change will be there.
Okay.
Okay.
And one more question here, like SLT you
Hmm.
have said, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
SLT process, as you said, like it was done by BW consultant, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Not only
Is there?
BW,
Uh,
what I mean to say is it is not the job of ABAP HANA consultant. It can be what BW, BO consultant. It can be anyone, but other than what ABAPers.
okay. I can say like it can be done through BODS also.
Yes,
BODS.
BOD.
Okay.
Yes, yes. There are many tools, many
But is
tools.
there any specific area like where we can utilize ABAP skills for SLT process? Because data
Uh,
migration, right? Definitely
Not
require
required,
ABAP.
not required. I think I can answer to that one second. Yeah, I think yeah. You can observe here. Yeah, you can see this. This is my SAP HANA database. Okay, this is my SAP HANA database. So as you told, you can see here we have BODS, SLT, Smart Data Access. By using all these things, data will be migrated to what? SAP HANA database. Not only from these SAP flavors, even from non-SAP systems also. By using this what BODS, SLT tools, we can migrate the data to what SAP HANA database. Once it is migrated to SAP, means what I mean to say is this part is not the job of what? This part is not the job of what ABAP consultant. Okay, as an ABAP consultant, we are never involved in this data migration. We are only involved in what native HANA development and ABAP on HANA development. So once the data is there in HANA database, you can expose it to what BOS, UI5, Lumira, normal traditional reports, some third-party tools. Even we can run a report in Excel, which will make use of the data stored in what HANA database. Okay, but whereas here you can see this is SAP HANA as primary database. That's what I discussed just now. SAP HANA as what secondary database.
Second
Okay,
iteration.
so yeah,
Yeah.
data migration using what data provision technique. So this data migration we need not worry. Okay, our role will be what starting once the data is there in what HANA database. So now the data is there in HANA database. Now what I have to do, I need to leverage, I need to make use of that HANA database features to improve your performance of your report. So for that we are going to use that HANA Studio for developing that CDS views, AMDP, SQL script programming, all those things for speeding up what certain business functionalities by making use of capabilities of what HANA database.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see it. I gave a point here. What is this? In this SAP HANA has data mode. What is this? In this, we will get the data from different systems using what? Data provisioning techniques and then do the reporting through what? SAP BO, SAP Lumira, SAP UI5, Excel, all those. So how do you migrate the data to HANA database? It is not the job of what? ABAP HANA consultant. As per my experience and knowledge, ABAPers will never involve in that. ABAP job will start only once the data is there in HANA database.
Fine, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Others any doubts? So this course is purely technical, no functional thing. Okay, purely technical means what changes we have to follow when you are going to HANA database, that we are going to focus. Okay, and coming to this duration, all those things, we require around 40 to 45 hours. I'm putting hours here, 40 to 45 hours, and the classes would be from Monday to Friday. Class will be Monday to Friday, but this week classes will be today or Tuesday, na? Yeah. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning also I'm available. We will not have class on Friday. This week only 3 days. For next week onwards, it will be 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. Okay. So officially the timing will be 1 hour per day, but definitely now here and there we may extend it for 10-15 minutes. So you should be flexible in that. And every day we are going to send a meeting ID. It's not the same meeting ID. A new meeting ID will be sent to your mail just before the class. Okay. So you may not receive it exactly at 6 a.m. 5-10 minutes here and there delay will be there. Okay. If any changes are there, I'll communicate to everyone. Okay. In case if you don't receive the meeting ID, this is my contact number. You can WhatsApp me or you can call me on this number. But just wait for 5-10 minutes. You'll receive a meeting ID. In case if there is any issue from my end, I'll communicate to everyone much before only. Okay. So this is the process, and as part of the course, we'll be sending the daily emails. When I say daily emails, as part of these emails, we'll be sharing the detailed notes and what are the programs we discuss in the live session, navigation, everything will be sent it what as part of the daily email. Means during the session, you did not copy anything. Everything whatever we discuss in the live session will be shared as part of the daily emails. Okay, and apart from that, as an additional service, okay, we'll be sharing the recordings also. Okay, these recordings will be for preview access. This will be for preview access, and this will be available during the course. During the course means suppose if the course goes for 45 days, okay, we'll give it for 2 months, or on a request basis we may extend it for 15 days or 1 month. We'll be sharing these recordings in Google Drive. So for preview access, you can just play that in what Google Drive. Okay, and these recordings, uh, I'll try to share it on a daily basis, but again, to convert each recording, it will take around 1 hour to 1.5 hour, sometimes 2 hours also. Okay, but every recording will be shared. I'll be sharing these recordings on the alternate days. I'll try to share it on the same day, but I'm not giving the commitment. But generally, 90 to 95%, almost in every batches, I'll share the recordings on the same day. Sometimes, if I'm not available for doing that conversion, the recording will be shared in the next day. Okay, so these emails you'll receive it every day, but recordings also I'll try to share it on the same day after a couple of hours or the afternoon or the end of the day. But sometimes if I miss it, I'll share it on the next day. So this is only an additional service from our end. And coming to the server access, yeah, this is important here. Coming to the server access, we don't provide any server access. Okay, let me be clear on that. We don't provide server access. You need to contact outside vendors for taking that particular server access. Okay. So if you want, I'll share that vendor details also. Even what is the server I've shown you, this also we are taking it from outside vendor only. Okay, we don't have that setup. Okay, we are mostly into online training. Yes, there are other people who provide online training. They'll also provide the server access, but here we don't provide server access. We don't want to get into that headache. Okay, so you need to take it from outside vendor. They'll charge some 1,000 to 1,200 per month. Okay, so if you take it for 2 months or 3 months, that will be sufficient. I'll give that vendor details once I start the practical part. In couple of days, I'll share the vendor details to everyone. You can contact them. You can refer my name, Sridhar at the Red Gensup. They'll do the needful. They'll provide all the details. You can use it for 1 or 2 days. If you're okay with that server, you can make the initial payment. They'll extend it for what, 1 month. Okay, so this is from my end. If you have any questions, please ask. And I repeat once again, it is purely technical, purely technical. Okay, so when I say purely technical, every day we are going to discuss what, how to develop CDS views, AMDP, nothing functional here. We are not going to discuss what is finance model, sales model, nothing. Okay, we are ABAP consultant. If I am projecting myself as ABAP HANA consultant, what is my role? That we are going to discuss in our course. So any questions, please ask me.
This will fetch this complete development will fetch for theory, right? Like any advantage before starting the theory classes, it will be helpful for us, right?
What I can say, not much, Shiva, not much. Okay, so
Okay.
if you are going to UI5 also, it doesn't
Mm.
mean that you should know ANA. But going forward, what happens is, going forward, as an ABAP consultant, all the front end screens will be developed using what? UI5. Okay, and all the backend activities will be what, in what, HANA database. But if you want to get into UI5, it is not compulsory, you should know HANA database. But as an ABAP consultant, we'll be working both as what, front end as well as what, back end. So if
Okay.
you think
Yeah.
in long term perspective, we require both, but there is no dependency. I can separately learn UI5, I can
Okay.
separately learn this ABAP.
Okay.
No, see Lakshmi, OData service is again, see, in our UI5 course, we will be having front end and back end. Okay, this front end, this front end will be for 45 days. Okay, where we use this UI5 framework. Okay, and in the backend, UI5 backend, we'll be discussing what OData service. This will take 1 month. Okay, so it's not part of the, this ABAP HANA doesn't include OData service development, but in one of the scenarios we are going to develop what, CDS views. Okay, so I'll be showing how to consume this CDS view in our ABAP report. And when I say ABAP report, it can be classical report. Okay, or it can be ALV report. And apart from that, we are going to consume the CDS view in what, OData service. Okay, OData service. But again, to discuss this OData service elaborately, it will take 1 month. So this, I'll just show a simple example to develop the OData service, which will consume what, CDS view. Doesn't mean that we will become perfect in this. No, again, there's a big history for this. It's a separate thing. Okay.
Okay.
So in our ABAP HANA, basically now, initially we'll be starting with what? Native HANA. Native HANA. So when I say native HANA, we'll be seeing how to design the HANA database objects, tables, views, sequences, procedures, functions, all those things. After that, what we will do, we'll be discussing what. I will change the sequence also. We'll be discussing something called as ADBCs. If you know Java, we have JDBC. Here we have what, ADBC. Okay. Then we'll be discussing what, AMDPs. Okay. Then we'll be discussing what, CDS views. Then we'll be discussing what ALV IDA. ALU reporting in HANA context. Okay, then we'll be discussing what HANA modeling. Okay, so these are the 6 things which we are going to discuss as part of our ABAP HANA, and these things requires around 40 to 45 hours. Okay, whatever we discuss as part of our ABAP HANA, that is more than sufficient to project experience also. Okay, you can project around 2 to 3 years. Don't project 5 to 6. Okay, SAP S4HANA is also came into picture somewhere in 2015. So you should be very careful. You have to say that you are working as a ABAP consultant, but from last 2 to 3 years, you are involved in what? ABAP HANA development also. So when you're projecting yourself as what? ABAP HANA development, it is understood that we know how to work with these things. Okay. So after completing this course, you can project experience on ABAP HANA for 2 to 3 years. Don't put more than that. No one will trust. Okay. Even 1 year also sufficient, but if you want to be, if you are confident, you can project up to 3 years also. Any other questions? Yeah, Dinesh, I'll share that vendor details in couple of days. In couple of days, I'll share that. Before that, I need to discuss with them. Okay. So once I discuss with them, I'll share that vendor details. Other batches, UI5 is tentative to start, but not yet decided. Because the problem is everyone is asking before 8:30. Okay, we have been through UI5, ABAP HANA, ABAP, OOPS ABAP, Cross Apps, everything they are asking before 8:30 only. Okay, so that is the problem. I'm not starting frequent batches. UI5, I'm having a plan to start in 1 week to 10 days, but timing and the date of start are not yet confirmed. This is a tentative thing, and we go for a weekend also. But again, it is not yet planned, but this is a schedule. One OOPS ABAP batch we have started. Just evening yesterday, we have started on OOPS ABAP batch. This is from what time? 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay, OOPS ABAP in the evening slot, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. So UI5 will be in what morning hours, or it will be in the weekends. Okay, but not yet finalized. We'll communicate accordingly. Any other questions? Karthik, any other questions? Anyone? Karthik, Kishore, Siddharth, Deba, Jyoti, Shiva, Sri Lakshmi, Sri Ram, Sudha. There are a few more participants. Might be probably they are expected to attend from once I start the practical part. Okay. Done. So whatever we discussed today, I'll send it through email. This recording also I'll try to send it. I repeat once again, this is not S4 HANA course. It is not S4 HANA course. This is ABAP HANA course. So there is a difference. Okay. And we are going to discuss these things.
Okay, Sridhar. Thank you.
Yeah. So classes will be from morning 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. But worst case 10-15 minutes we may get extend. But today, since it's an introduction session, we are extended till 7:30. But otherwise, we will 6 to 7 or max 7:15. Okay. Chalo then. So I'm winding off. We'll continue tomorrow around 6 a.m. Okay.
Bye. Bye, sir.
Any questions? Yeah. You can, any questions? You can call me on this number. I think I shared the number somewhere. This is my personal number, and we have the office number also. For a few days, I'll carry this office number also because we have started with new batches. People will have some queries, so I may carry the office number, but this is my personal number. Okay. Chalo then. So I'm winding off. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, sir.